All right. So Rob ONeill, Rob ONeill. Listen, I've talked about my interviews with Rob. We are going to get into that right now and a little bit extra. There's one part of the story about the Bin Laden raid that Rob has told repeatedly. So, guys, just to be clear, we're now going into the Rob ONeill, some investigating I've done into Rob ONeill. There's one part of the story with Rob ONeill that's I've always questioned. I've always heard it, and I'm just like, is that true? Can it be true? And it is the using of a wife as a human shield. Here's why this is critically important. I think the true story of Amal Bin Laden, and when we find out what happened to her, that is going to blow the Bin Laden raid wide open. Why? For those of you who don't know, Amal Bin Laden was shot on the raid. She was shot on the 3rd floor of the raid. She was in, before the shooting occurred, she was in the bedroom with, hold on one second. Okay, so Travis is saying if there had been children all over the battlefield, children being used as combatants effectively would light up every intel dashboard of concern across that theater of war. So if there were 11-year-olds running around with weapons, he is saying they would have known about it. It would have been documented. It would have been relayed to everyone. So that's more further context. So Amal Bin Laden got shot on the 3rd floor. She was, when the raid started, in Osama bin Laden's bedroom. These are not facts that are in dispute. She was 100% shot. Why is this important? If you get shot by a 77 grain tip round, I believe they call them black tips, is what SEAL Team 6 and Delta use. If you guys know, please let me know if I got that right. 77 grain black tip rounds. If she was shot in the leg, how is she on her feet being used as a human shield? Before we get into it, let's show Rob's comments. Zero Dark 30, they show. All right. He's actually going to say a couple things here that are very interesting. This interview, I think, was from 2021. I believe it was when I was working at the Daily Caller with Tucker Carlson, Neil Patel. They were running it, or Tucker did leave by then. Neil Patel was still there. We're going to get into Tucker here shortly, and let's roll these comments. Because in Zero Dark 30, they show that where the sun peeks around and the guy just smokes them right away.
They sort of did. I mean, I think Zero Dark 30 was made by guys that knew guys that were on the raid. I don't think anyone on the raid helped. I mean, hey, if the movie's on,
So I'll stop it right there. What Rob was about to say is that he doesn't think anyone on the raid helped him. That sounds like he was going to say, but they talked to people who knew people that were on the raid. I can tell you for a fact, from a CIA source of mine, this is a fact, there was at least one member of the raid who spoke to the filmmakers. This comes from someone I know at CIA who also met with the filmmakers, and they said there was a SEAL Team 6 person on the raid who was involved, and they did speak to him. Could have been more, but there was at least one. All right, let's go. Also, by the way, I want to give a shout out here. Let me move this mic real quick. I'm wearing my Red Dawn shirt. Bought that from Super 70 Sports for 4th of July last year. Super 70 Sports. The guy does a show for Outkick. You can watch it. He has cool shirts. This is my favorite one. Wolverines, Red Dawn. Always giving a shout out to Red Dawn, as you can see right there. All right. So Rob said he didn't think they talked to anyone. They did. I can tell you that for a fact.
I'm watching it. It's good. But it didn't quite go down like that. And then we didn't whisper to Osama at the end. But they did whisper to Khalid, confused him. Brilliant tactics. And then we went to the floor where Khalid was living. Everybody except the number one man went right and left to clear, because you don't want to leave unknown spaces as you go up. But we're in a hurry, so maybe they will. And I ended up being one guy behind him, and his job as the point man is point forward, and everywhere his gun looks, he looks, but he's holding security up. My job is to look back and have positive control, so I can tell him when we have enough guys, I don't need to say anything. I just squeeze him. Now we're up. And so it's him and me.
So it's nonverbal communication.
So right now, Rob is saying, this is the story he's told many times. It's just him and the point man. It's just him and the point man, who's often identified as Red. Okay. Red and Rob. They're the only people up there. And this comes right after Khalid bin Laden got shot by the point man on the stairwell. There's no dispute that the point man shot Khalid in the stairwell. That is a fact. Here we go.
Yeah, I don't like, even in combat, other than Marines and heavy combat, because they don't have radios, they have to yell, and Marines are just awesome. But I don't like when guys make a lot of noise, because you might as well be yelling where you are. So right. Just everyone, like if you turn a corner and go up and someone yells stairwell, don't yell that. I'm just going to assume it's a stairwell because you're pointing up. So right. And then this is years of tactics. Anyway, the point man saw above him, at the top of the stairs wasn't a door, it was a curtain. And he could see people moving behind it. And now he doesn't know it's me. He knows it's one of his guys. He doesn't give a shit that it's me.
Who it is.
Right.
So in this story, they're holding on the door. They can see movement. They think there's people in the room. They think that they got to go now. They got to go now. I think that's what he's saying. We got to go.
And it was never drawn up this way. It's just sometimes life happens. And so I'm here, and he just started talking about how we got to get upstairs, and he eventually convinced me. And I remember looking back, and I wanted 4, I'll take 2. But then I remember he knows we got to go. He's right in front of me, and he was brave. But for me, I remember thinking, not bravery, like here we go. I was thinking, okay, now we're going to blow up, and I'm just tired of thinking about it. Like here, I'm going to know what it feels like to face a suicide bomber. And that was it. And I'd like, go. And so he went up, he moved the curtain, and he tackled the people that he thought were suicide bombers, which to me is probably still the brave.
All right. Let's rewind that and think about that for just a second.
Faced a suicide bomber. And that was it. And I'd like, go. And so he went up, he moved the curtain, and he tackled the people that he thought were suicide bombers, which to me is probably still the bravest thing.
All right. The point man is the first guy through the door. He thinks, according to Rob, there's 2 potential bombers in the room. He doesn't look to see where is the adult male in the room, and he doesn't shoot the suicide bombers immediately. Does not shoot them. Instead, the point man tackles them, apparently leaves Osama bin Laden, who they think could be armed, untouched, and now there's just one other guy coming in behind them. What if bin Laden's sitting in the corner with an AK and sprays the doorway? These are questions that even me, as not a tactical expert, I'm thinking, okay, this guy who just smoked Khalid isn't dropping bodies anymore. Now he's just pushing people away.
I've ever seen.
Balls the size of basketball.
Honestly, in his defense, if and when I don't think he's the type of guy that doesn't ever want to be public, but they need to review this and potentially put him in for a Medal of Honor, because that's amazing. So he went forward, and simply because he went this way, I went that way. And right there is Osama bin Laden in a doorway, 3 feet in front of me. And he's got his hands on his, I can close my eyes and see it whenever I want. So he's standing up, his arms are on Amal Bin Laden, his wife. And you'll actually, if you look up her interview, she says the exact same thing from her point of view, which.
Oh, hold on, Rob. If you look up her interview, she says the exact same thing from her point of view. That's interesting. Keep in mind, there's only 2 people there. There's only 2 people there. We're going to pull up what he's referring to.
Crazy. But I saw him, and the way that my rules of engagement went was, he's skinnier than I thought. He's a lot taller than I thought. His beard is white. That's his nose. He's not surrendering. He's a threat. He's a suicide bomber. I got to take him now. And that was in the blink of an eye. I shot him twice, and I shot him again as I moved her. So twice up here, once down there. And then I started moving her back to the bed, because it's a weird sixth sense. Okay,
so Rob has now just shot Osama bin Laden 3 times. His wife, who we know is shot in the raid, is being used as a human shield. Rob, after he kills bin Laden, moves her off to the side to a bed. Doesn't make any reference to her being shot. Okay, so this woman, who's a tiny, small woman, at some point takes a round in the leg, and yet apparently is still on her feet being used as a human shield. Rob then moves her to the bed, doesn't say anything about noticing a gunshot wound of any kind. And guys, we're going to do some more super chats. I'm going to answer all your questions. If you send a super chat, it 100% will get answered. I promise. So send those super chats. We'll get into more of them.
You can sort of tell who's a threat and who's not. And I could just tell that she's not. Yeah. And then.
So she's not a threat, but someone shot her. Good to know.
And then the craziest part, I don't care which target you're going after or how bad he was.
Okay, so that's the end of that. All right, let's find, what did Amal Bin Laden say? Let me make sure I'm not jumping out of order here real quick. So this is according to Amal Bin Laden. When the Navy team entered the room, she tried to rush them, but was shot in the leg and passed out. What? Hold on a second. She wasn't a threat, and Rob moved her to the bed and says her version of events back him up. I'm sorry, what? When the Navy team entered the room, she tried to rush them, but was shot in the leg and passed out. When she came to, bin Laden was already dead. That's from a report that is of her version of events. All right. Interesting. Very interesting. Let's look at this. On Sunday, when the U.S. Navy SEALs moved in, Amal Ahmed was in the bedroom with bin Laden when she reacted with apparent fury. In the room with bin Laden was bin Laden's wife, said White House Press Secretary Jay Carney. She rushed one of the U.S. assaulters and was shot in the leg, but not killed. A woman on the first floor was killed in combat. Guys, she was either being used as a human shield and was no threat whatsoever, or she rushed the assault force and one of the Navy SEALs shot her. But this is important. There's only two people in the room. According to Rob, Red never fires a shot in the room. Rob comes in, sees her being used as a human shield, and immediately shoots bin Laden in the head, then moves her to the bed. She's not a threat. She's on the bed. In order to believe Rob's story, we have to account for this magical bullet. Red, the point man, never fires in his story. Rob comes in, kills bin Laden. The situation's done. She's on the bed. She's moved out of the way. She's not a threat. How the fuck did she get a hole in her leg from a rifle? Rob didn't shoot her. He says the point man never fired any shots. Can someone explain how those two things could possibly be true at the same time? Because the U.S. government went on record and said she rushed an assaulter and got shot for it. She says she rushed an assaulter and got shot for it. Was never used as a human shield. So if Rob didn't shoot her, did Red, coming through the doorway, who never fired a shot according to Rob? That's awfully interesting. We've got one guy, the point man, who never pulls the trigger after killing Khalid, according to Rob. And we've got Rob, who didn't shoot her, but she's got a hole in her leg. Only two people in the room in his story. I would like to know, hit me with some super chats if you think there are how you think this magical bullet theory comes into account. But actually, we have some more information on this. I got to give Jeremy Sladen and Matt Kubler a shout out here, because let me make sure I've got the right timestamp. Okay, I'm going to share this on the screen. Let me share this on the screen. Give me 1 second. Okay. I'm going to add it to the screen. A lot of buttons here. All right. So I'm not the first one to find this incredibly odd that this woman who we know for a fact was shot, but yet no one can account for the bullet that hit her. Let's play the comments. Let me make sure it's up.
Than anything.
I've got a quick question for you, Rob, as I'm, piecing this together, and both of you guys have studied this a lot more than me. Matt studied, Rob, you were there. Two different things. When you're talking about Amal, even major news sources have said she was on the ground, she was shot. I've never really heard you say whether you shot her or not, but that's the first time I've ever heard you say, and it sounded to me as if you said, you're talking about that gap, that she was shot when you first looked up and you said, there's Osama bin Laden. And she had been.
Well, I mean, I didn't see her get shot either. I saw her shot when I got in there.
But she was standing because you said he had his hands on.
He had his hands on her. Yeah.
Okay.
She wasn't on the ground. I put her on the bed.
Tough chick.
So I think yeah. It's so
tough chick. That's quite the line from Jeremy. This woman takes a 77 grain black tip through the leg and for some reason is able to be on her feet and is being used as a human shield. And yet nobody can account for this bullet because, to be clear, Rob has said a couple different things before, that there were shots fired from the hallway where bin Laden was, and then that there weren't. So is he going to say now that there were or weren't? I don't really know. But the reality of the situation is shockingly simple the way I see it and the way I look at it. Rob's story can't be true. And I had a guy from the raid. I'm not going to tell you who it was. I had a guy from the raid tell me, he called me after Rob's Tucker interview and said, essentially, the story many people have heard. Bin Laden got clipped in the hallway by the point man, disappears. Point man then comes in to follow his shots, and bin Laden is engaged again multiple times on. Okay, so guys, did I say this? Guys, I apologize. If you know the ammo, if I'm making a mistake on the ammo, it's totally accidental. Please get me the name of the ammo in the comments. I will correct myself. I apologize. I thought that someone that's what it was said. She takes the round, but it doesn't change anything. She gets hit, or I'm sorry, I'm losing it's a 70. Okay, these guys are going off all. He said that then they entered the room because that's what they do, follow their shots, and more rounds are fired at that point. But that the point man engaged from the hallway. That is apparently not up for debate among the guys who were there. That's what they believe. That's what they witnessed. And here's the other thing. This person said. There was a mad scramble from the second floor to the third floor. And every SEAL who could get to the third floor rushed up there to the point one of the people on, I don't want to get too specific here. One guy had to hold extra security on the second floor, essentially, because all the SEALs were ripping past them to get up there. So is that possible with just two people? Does it sound like, and this is a phone call I took this week. This week, I believe on, was it Thursday? Yeah. This was on Thursday. And this is from the view of a guy who was there, watched it go down. I don't want to give more details than that. I don't want to give this guy's identity away. That's what he said. This gets a little more interesting. Let's throw this up on the screen. So do we all remember this tweet? This was on June 1st of this year. Rob ONeill, do you really want me to tell Red's story? I'll tell it. I kept that MFer out of prison. I'll tell it. Very interesting. Very, very, very interesting. What do you mean by that, Rob? What do you mean you kept him out of prison? What do you mean that if you tell his story, he's going to go to prison? What I think he's trying to imply, and I don't know because he didn't get into details, is that the point man is responsible for that shot, the magic bullet. Again, though, here's why that's a problem. Rob has had varying versions, including ones where there's no shots from the point man. That Red did not engage after Khalid. He tackles the women. Why would that keep him out of prison? You just said he deserves the Medal of Honor. So I will also tell you that from what I've been told from guys there were a total of 4 men in the room. 4 men who engaged, with the first shot coming from the hallway. In fact, let me see if I can do this real quick. Let me see if I can pull this up. Give me a second. All right. Stay with me here. All right. I'm going to try to share my screen. Add to stage. Oh, got to remove. This is investigative journalist Matthew Cole on the Team House. Let's see what he has to say.
As the SEAL operator who fired into bin Laden and effectively killed him in Pakistan in 2011. He was at the head of the stack that went up. I think, in fact, as it happens, he also shot bin Laden's son on the second deck. And as I understand it, and I think as I reported in the book, he fired 2 shots, at least 2 shots. The first hit bin Laden, grazed him somewhere, not quite clear if it was the hip or the leg, but then he got him center mass. And at that point, bin Laden fell back into the room and onto the ground, a key detail, because everyone else who came into the door afterwards fired into him while he was down on the ground, according to my sources. And although it's no longer available, I will tell you that on Twitter about a year ago, a member of the unit who was there confirmed my version of what was reported and what the version that's in this book, and describes ONeill, I think, as being the 4th guy through the doorway and the 4th man to shoot bin Laden. So Red.
Let me pause this right here. It says, this is from a guy on the raid. I know the name of this guy. It's blurred out here. I'm not going to share it. Rob did not shoot UBL first. The first man in the room shot him center mass first. Biz shot center mass second. Rob was number 4. Rob did shoot him in the head after 3 others shot him. We had agreed to not shoot the head or the face to preserve 4+ ID reasons. Now that story is believable because in that situation, bin Laden's already been hit. He goes back in the room. They rush in. The wife rushes out. Rushes at him. She's hit. They fire security shots. So pretty odd. I will say it's pretty odd. But why don't we stop sharing this? And I have another video. We're going to go back to this one. This is also from Jeremy and Matt. And this is something I talked about the other day. I'll be answering super chats soon. So if you guys have any good super chats, please send them in now. We got to go to about 1:33. All right. I'm going to share the screen. All right. Let me add it up here. So remember the other day when I said there's a video I was told about by a member of the mission, and that video will be the smoking gun of exactly what happened? Well, I got good news for everyone. Watch this.
Guys.
Okay, but yeah,
Hey,
there's
Rob.
definitely
Hey guys, 1 second. That was very important, and we had a glitch in the matrix there. Rob, go back if you don't mind. Let's kind of get the feed here going. Okay, I think we're good. Rob, pick up what you said about McCraven.
Yeah, we had a debrief in JBAT and in Bagram. The big one was in Bagram, in a private room, and I think it was just Ground Force Commander and their Command Master Chief. I don't think McCraven was in there.
Okay.
okay. So no, I know for a fact about the Command Master Chief. Now that was recorded, and from what I was told from several people, that when the debriefing was going on and you offered your portion of that, what happened, that it was never mentioned that you killed Osama bin Laden in that recorded debrief. Do you recall that at all? Or no?
Yeah, I recall the recorded debrief, and I know shit. When we got done recording it, I said to myself, I'm immediately going to regret this. But we do our best at cleaning up debriefs to avoid. We don't know what's going to happen on a mission this big, and we don't know if people threw errant shots.
Interesting. Very interesting. So Rob acknowledges in this video, which I promise you exists, that he does not take credit for killing Osama bin Laden in an attempt to cover up what could be errant shots. Is that referring to the wife? Is that referring to someone else? Is it referring to they don't know? I spoke to someone who, again, from the mission, he said that video, if it goes public, it's the end of it. And I've heard from 2 other people that in that video, Red, the point man, is doing almost all the talking. And in the video, he says he got Osama bin Laden. That is what I've been told from people who were there in the briefing and on the mission. I am working desperately hard to get that video. Obviously, I would have to censor some things potentially. We've got FOIA requests in. And here's another little doozy. Well, I don't know if I should say this. Let me think about it for a second. I'm trying to think if I can word this a certain way. No, I'm not going to say it. I have reason to believe, I'll say this. I have reason to believe that the U.S. government has that recording still, and it is FOIA eligible. I'm not going to get into why I think that, but that comes from someone with better knowledge than I have. But if we don't get it that way, we will see if we can track it down or if anyone has it. But I was told in no uncertain terms that the point man is all over that recording explaining how bin Laden was killed. That recording has never been made public. Probably fewer than 50 people on the planet have ever heard it, would be my guess. Not good. Not good. But we shall see. So that's where we're at on that. The wife thing, let me stop sharing this. Who shot the wife is going to tell you in no uncertain terms how this unfolded. End of story. And it'll show you who's telling the truth and who's not. And I cannot wait. All right, I just got some documents. I can't show them on the screen right now. Okay, I'll have to put those in a follow-up, but it is, someone has sent me the documents from the need of carrying weapons on HKIA. This is good stuff. I'm going to have to look at those probably at a different time. So I'm trying to hunt this down as much as I can. And again, guys, I'll start answering questions here soon. If you guys have any, super chats are great. $1, $5, $10 really helps us grow the show, which is a critically important thing. I'm hunting it down. I'm putting in the work. I promise you, I'm putting in the work. I'm doing the best I can. And this has been a hell of an episode. Hell of an episode. We're good. We got Tim Kennedy inconsistencies. We've got Rob ONeill inconsistencies. The floodgates for the truth are coming wide open. The floodgates of what actually happened are coming wide open. It is my dream to get on the phone. It would be the ultimate goal to get on the phone with Red. I don't think that's going to happen yet. I do know who he is. I've had his name confirmed by multiple sources. I know what he's doing for a living right now, or up until recently been doing for a living right now. I don't even want to get into what he looks like or specifics of that. But the term Red, I will say it's the term Red. People say it has to do with because it was Red Squadron. That is not true. That is not why the point man's call sign was Red. There is a very telling reason his name was Red. And if he ever goes public, that reason will be very, very, very obvious. All right, we'll do a couple questions here. We'll do this will be the 5th block of the show. We'll get into just some random stuff I had jotted down. That is a lot of the big stuff. Please, if you got questions, send them in the chat. I'm going to answer as many as I can. Super chats, I'm going to try to get them. Someone said Red is still active. He is not still active, retired a few years ago. I know that for a fact as well, due to what he's doing for a living right now. That is he is not still in the teams. I can promise you that. All right, let's see what we got here. I do want to do a little bit of someone said Red is a good dude. Here, this is actually a good question. Someone said, if you got questions about the Bin Laden raid and you want them answered, send them now. I'll get them. I'll get as many as I can. Why hasn't anyone interviewed Will Chesney, K9 Cairo's handler, in his whole Rob ONeill debacle? I actually believe Rob and Will did an interview together, and the raid, the actual shooting part of the raid, wasn't really discussed. I've never, ever heard them. People are starting to close in the chats. I better be